One, two, levels, testing the levels. Okay. Hey, everyone. I always feel like I start these videos with an apology about the fact that I've not done a video in a while, which is probably getting old. So I guess it isn't that long. But I've been moving house, as some of you know, and I have now done that, and I'm in that house, and the office is set up mostly. So it was kind of nice to get my computer out last night and start making something again. So I made something very simple. Only took a few hours playing around, but I thought I would have a quick look at the lighting. Not that this is the greatest piece of art that I've ever made. It was fairly interesting from a lighting point of view, so I thought I would do a little thing for you guys and show you roughly what's going on. A lot of the time I was spent just doing the desert lighting before any of the architectural stuff was in there. But yeah, I think that the finished thing doesn't look too dissimilar because the sky and stuff's in there, and it was quite an intuitive way to work, and I wasn't using physical atmosphere or anything like that. It's all done with stuff that's in the basic Blender. So yeah, there's nothing here that anyone would need to buy a plugin for, I don't think. Yeah, I think it's all base Blender stuff. So I will switch to Eevee just because it basically looks the same in Eevee, and then we don't have to wait for the fireflies to disappear. The reason this doesn't look too dissimilar is because there's no or very little emission coming from the kind of world background. That's when Eevee starts to look a bit muddy, I think, but some of the shadows will look a bit odd. But anyway, the principles are all there. So I started with the desert, which I used again, another built-in Blender plugin, which I'm assuming most people have switched on, called Landscape. And then I just generated some dunes. I do this a lot. And then just put a very, very basic material on there, which I believe is, just grey, orange, yellow. Just a basic material with metallic turned down and the roughness turned up. Nothing fancy going on here. Again, you could go as crazy as you want with this stuff, with sand. I tend to just leave it fairly basic because hopefully the stuff in the middle of the scene will distract the eye, and then I'll kind of like mess around with it a little bit in Procreate. So yeah, so I created these, and then I knew that I wanted like a very kind of stark difference between like the foreground, between the highlights and the dark areas of the scene. And this is a really good example of like how much you can get away with lighting that doesn't really make any sense. So the light itself is a sun lamp, which I always try to use if I've got sunlight. Always try and use the sun lamp rather than any of the others, just because you don't get any fall off and it behaves more like the sun. So yeah, that's just sort of like kicking across here. And then these things I'm going to refer to as flags. In film terms, these have got a few different names, but I'm going to refer to them as flags. You've seen me do this before, where I just use big black objects to sort of create shadows across the landscape. So it's less obvious kind of from this angle, but from a slightly, I think originally it was a slightly higher angle, and you could see these kind of like long shadows basically, which I think worked fine. They look a little bit odd in Eevee, but yeah, they're just kind of creating this. I think with that kind of thing, just play around with it. The reason I've got a second screen open here was basically so I could adjust these and start having a play. So like as I was dragging these around, I could see kind of how the shadows were changing in real time. Yeah, so it's just a way of being able to kind of adjust that and keep our shadows here. It just meant that the light only fell really where I wanted it to fall. You've seen me do this before. Yeah, it was quite a heavy usage of it on this image. Something to have a play with. I've been seeing people's work recently, and there's some like really amazing stuff on the Discord, but like the same sort of like issue crops up in a lot of people's work, where it's like the thing that you want me to look at, and my eye isn't drawn to it straight away because it's the values kind of from a light point of view are very, very similar throughout the image. And I think like this kind of thing can help you kind of like point where you want people to look and draw their eyes away from where you don't. I'm always telling people like point more light at your stuff, even if it doesn't feel like it's going to make sense. Just point a big old light at it, and then you can kind of refine it and change it until it kind of works. But yeah, you really got to kind of know where it is that you want people to look and focus on that stuff. And this is why, I don't put a lot of detail in things that are in the kind of foreground or like deep background. Kind of work from a really blocky kind of starting point, so that you're not putting detail into somewhere that you're going to later on try and distract from. I also did this as a reference, which was downloaded a pack of moody skies and I kind of slotted it into the background. I wouldn't always do that, like, because when I rendered it out, I don't render this background at all, but it did help me get a kind of context for kind of what I'd be able to get away with later on in Procreate. And I think I used basically the same image in Procreate and then put that in the background and did some blurring of it to kind of make it look cool. Sometimes worth doing. It just meant that I didn't need a HDRI thing. Yeah, I was working quickly, so I didn't want to like mess around with physical atmosphere and that kind of thing too much. The other thing I've done, and again, this is something that I do on a lot of images, is just these. So these two lights here are just pumping a little bit of light. This kind of like green. I think it's green and purple or green and red. Yeah, kind of like purpley color, just back into the objects. And this is something that isn't particularly natural, so it's not like necessarily ideal for like photo real stuff. But like if you're going for something that you want to feel like a painting or a drawing, you know, if you were drawing this, you would maybe want people to be able to see that part of the model, so you'd maybe add a little bit of exposure in there, and it kind of makes it look a bit weird. And I like that. But yeah, if you're going for something photo real, you know, you'd maybe turn those down or off. I did the same thing here for this little bit. Oh. And I say I didn't use plugins, I did use random flow cables generator, which is actually really good. I use that probably more than I do the Greeble thing now. Yeah, everything else, fairly straightforward. It's just the Brutalist kit bash object, same object, but one of them's stretched. Yeah, kind of amazing what you can get away with. And then yeah, in Procreate kind of added like graffiti and just some kind of messy stuff. Yeah, no idea what it was, but it felt like I was sketching in that, like I didn't know that there was going to be a floating thing. I didn't really know what was going to be here. I kind of threw this in. I was like, oh, concrete looks cool. Yeah, and kind of went from there really. So yeah, just a little breakdown there of a couple of bits. I'd love to see, yeah, you guys having a go at the kind of flagging off the light and stuff for some of your scenes. I don't know whether it's something that's done widely. Like, it's definitely a film industry thing that I'm kind of bringing in. I'm sure there's probably other ways of doing it kind of in 3D, but yeah, for me, that kind of makes the most sense for now. So yeah, as always, let me know if you have any questions or thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments if there's something either from this scene or from other scenes or anything really that you're interested in at the moment. And I'll see whether I can take a look. Thank you for watching, and hopefully there'll be some more posts now leading into the end of the month after a bit of a quiet start. So yeah, thanks for the ongoing support, guys.